Up next on the History Channel.
It's a story that everyone should know, but you won't find it in the history books.
What you have to understand is they changed comedy forever.
This is the Untold Story.
Everyone thinks they know what happened, but they don't.
And it's just the tip of the iceberg.
If you really want to go back to the beginning, it all started with Jonathan Weathersby.
Weathersby was a lawyer from Boston, Massachusetts. Inspired by the Revolutionary War Minutemen, he created his own militia, the Weathermen, in 1774. They never saw combat, but they were brothers in arms nonetheless.
For a long time, the Weathermen waited for the moment when their nation would need them. And that moment didn't come until 1861.
Yep, they waited for almost a century. What you have to understand is that's 100 years.
Say what you will about the Weathermen, but they were patient.
The Weathermen wanted attention, but they didn't really want to do anything. So they came up with this brilliant plan to create their own neutral state between the North and the South.
Their state was so under the radar, the only reason we even know about it is through the letters that they sent during that time.
May the 6th, 1862. Dearest Mother, 2 fortnights have passed since my arrival at the Boar's Head Inn. Lieutenant Crawford has declared a neutral state for the duration of the war. My love to you and Father. Remember to keep young Susanna away from the windows, as I fear it will be a cold winter. All my love, Josiah Ashburn, Weatherman.
After the Civil War, they found a way to capitalize on the Industrial Revolution. One of their members was particularly successful in that area. He brought a lot of revenue to the group. They were living it up. By 1912, they were going international on a transatlantic tour. That didn't go as planned. Miraculously, every single one of them survived.
What you have to understand about the Weathermen is that they were very good swimmers.
So when 1915 rolled around, they decided to go to sea once again. They figured, what are the odds it happens more than once?
The Weathermen lost some good men on the Lusitania. It was a tragedy.
Luckily, they won tickets for a once-in-a-lifetime voyage through the skies.
After that, the group was smaller, but they still had a great time. The 1920s greeted the Weathermen with open arms. Jazz, parties, bootlegging. They were on top of the world. It was as if nothing could stop them. In fact, one of the members even became incredibly successful in the silent film industry.
And then the snowball kept a-rolling. The Weathermen could afford good times, but unfortunately, most of their money came from stocks. The crash of '29 hit them hard. But then again, it wasn't exactly great times for anyone, I suppose.
Yeah, looking back on it, they had terrible luck in the early 20th century. They shouldn't have tried to travel so much. What you have to understand is that they were a persistent bunch.
Things did get better in the 1950s. The Weathermen formed a pretty close alliance around some less than reputable activities.
They were a gang.
After a brief time in jail, they decided to take a more noble path.
They sold Tupperware.
Okay, yes, but they looked really cool.
Then came the 1960s. Rock and roll, Vietnam, civil rights, the Kennedy assassination, Marilyn Monroe, and the first Walmart opened up. The Weathermen tried a lot of stuff. They even tried to form their own offshoot Britpop pop band. But by the time that their first single came out, Britpop was out. However, there was another revolution stirring on the home front.
The University of Virginia admitted female students in 1970. What everyone forgets is that the Weathermen already had female members. In 1970, they just took off their disguises.
Now, though the Weathermen were famous throughout the 70s, perhaps their most famous performance came in their role in the 1988 Winter Olympics when they took down the Soviet Union skating team. They were instrumental in defeating them at that Olympics, and they took home 2 golds.
Of course, it was a tremendous upset for the Soviets. And that's, where you get that famous photo from the award ceremony. and that surely turned some heads.
I think the photo became so popular because it was just so loud. What you have to understand is that the U.S. had won the gold, and still the Weathermen took that photo. They took the poor guy's hat.
And that's what led to the end of the Cold War in 1991.
The Weathermen ended the Cold War. Bet you didn't know that, did you?
The Weathermen were doing pretty well in the 70s and 80s. But then, in the late 90s, they became an improv group. And then, well, everything went to shit.